Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 36, Trainers to the Rescue, featuring Bobby Dorafshar. Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast. My name is Mariano, here with Brent and a very special guest that we'll be announcing here in just a couple minutes. Before we do though, we want to let you guys know that you can find us on all major social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all by searching Dog Trainers Podcast, and it's all one word, Dog Trainers Podcast, as well as all major podcast platforms for those of you who'd rather listen to us in straight audio version, iTunes, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. And I just want to give one last quick shout out to a few of those cities who have been showing us love lately. So what's up, guys, in Garner, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio. And this last episode, we got a ton of support from Canada and Australia. Thank you guys so much. And with that being said, I'm going to kick it over right to Brent because we've got someone who we're very excited to talk to. Go ahead, man.
Right on. What's up, everybody? Hope you guys had a wonderful week. So our special guest today is someone very, very dear to my heart. You guys hear me talk about him over the last 35 episodes. His name is Bobby Dorafshar. He's my mentor of many, many years. A dog trainer and master of his craft in his own right. But this is a guy who definitely over the last many, many years taught me not just dog training. He taught me business. He taught me how to kind of channel my passion for rescue. He taught me about nonprofit work. He taught me about personal life growth. He taught me about a bunch of things, as most mentors do. So we're really honored to have him here on the podcast. And we're going to kind of dive into his story, because one thing that I always loved about his story was this guy, he'll tell you a little bit more himself, but this guy is a self-made man, definitely a self-made man, someone really, really inspiring, very passionate, someone who is multifaceted with many skills and many talents. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better mentor. So that being said, we're going to go introduce Bobby Dorafshar. Bobby, how are you today?
Hi, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good seeing you, Mario.
Good to see you.
It's been a while. Thank you for having me. And, the way you talked about me, maybe I should have charged you for
I know, right? For all the years of
I
therapy.
guess I threw up my money somehow. But thank you for having me. I'm here to answer any question you guys have.
Perfect. Well, I think one thing we wanted to dive into, Bobby, let's just start from the beginning, your story, where you started. It's great having these special guests on because we get to see where everyone starts. And it's so funny because even though everyone has different origin stories, there's definitely overlap when it comes to passion and it comes to how we got started. So let's start with you. I guess let's start from the very, very beginning. Go ahead.
Well, as a child, living in I would say at this time is a third world country, Iran, dogs, they have no right. They were against religion. They call them felty. And there were strays all over, and nobody cared about them. And it's so funny because here, when you see a dog, when you kneel down, they run to you and kiss you. Back home, if you kneel down, they would run because somebody would pick up a rock and hit him. So since I was a little kid, I always had passion for dogs. So every day I'll come home with a puppy from gutters or something loose on the street. And my poor dad, God bless, he will take him in, then he will try to find him a home, or has to deal with me crying for God knows how long. So starts when I was probably around 5, 6 years old. And based on at a very young age, I think I've been told my dog saved my life. I fell in the pool and almost drowned, and he helped me up.
What kind of dog was that?
It was a little fluffy dog, call him Snowy. So he kept me right on the edge of the pool till my parents realized I'm missing.
Oh my gosh.
So this is when I was around 2 years old. So I always had a passion I felt I'm a voice of the dogs. So at the young age of a teenager, anywhere I went, I had 15, 20 stray dogs follow me. And to be honest, I would have a huge amount of food in my dish. Then I will sneak out and I will feed the dogs outside till my dad with the butcher shop, they make the deal to give me food for the dogs.
Right.
So go forward. Always loved animals, always had dogs at home. My dogs were everything for me. And till I came to US, which I was 21 years old. And I came to a different country with a different culture, with different expectation, and not even be able to communicate with anybody based of lack of language.
Mhm.
So for years, I want to have a dog, but I couldn't have it because I had to work in a factory. I work at the minimum wage.
Yeah.
I had to
There
work for
wasn't
the
a lot of
company.
there
It
wasn't a lot
was
of job
just
opportunity.
crazy
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of job
and couldn't
opportunity.
communicate.
Yeah.
So, but that passion stayed and stayed and stayed with me till I got a little bit older, uh, be able to make some money. Then I got my first dogs actually in US. They were Rottweilers.
Mm.
I got a puppy for my girlfriend, and then my neighbor had another one, and they liked the way I treat my dogs and train him by myself without not much of a knowledge, just experience.
Mhm.
I end up to having their puppy as well. Based on they were living in state and they couldn't have more than two dogs with them, and that was their third dog.
Mm.
Shadow was my baby, and Baron was an adopted baby, which I was in love with him since this puppy was around 2 months old.
Mhm.
He was a beautiful, beautiful pup.
How old were you at this time, Bobby?
At this time, I'm around 30 years old, 29, 30 years old.
So you moved to a country at 21. You don't even know the language. You're working these basic jobs, because you can't communicate, to everybody. What were you doing in that meantime? You went to go you were taking English
Well, no, no,
classes.
no, no. What I did, I went to work around 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a 60 miles drive every day. Come home around 5 o'clock. Then at night, I went to ESL, English is a second language.
Nice.
And then I end up to go to Pierce College at night.
Mhm.
And my hardest time was keeping my eyes open at 8 o'clock in a class. I was willing to pay thousands of dollars to just take a nap for 5 minutes. So that's how I started it. Then I started working for a different company and I started working as a salesperson
Mhm.
with a very, very broken language.
Mhm.
But somehow, somewhere, people liked me and I was
Mhm.
successful and I started making money.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that anyone who knows you is they know how good you are with people, and so I'm sure even if there was a language barrier, there you at least you could figure out a way to communicate and connect with somebody.
And that was my first experience at my sales job because somebody told me and he goes, Bobby, you talked to me for half an hour and I was selling stereo. And he goes, to be honest with you, I did not understand the word you said. But your energy made me buy it. And my manager looked at me and he go, you're going to be a top salesman in this company. So that was my first
We just got to
experience on
teach you
sales.
English, kid.
Exactly.
We just got to teach you.
So, I knew all the bad words, just not the good words.
All the
Yeah.
bad.
It always even kids learn the bad words first, it seems.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
So,
any second language for sure. For sure. Okay, so 21. So between 21 to 30, you worked for a couple jobs. You were a salesman, and then you decided or you ended. These two Rottweilers fell in your lap.
well, I we were doing like everyday hike. I got to know a lot of people hiking with me,
Mhm.
and my dogs were well behaved.
Mhm.
And I want to do sports with my dogs. So I found a club, which it was a Schützen Club, and I went there and visit them for nights after nights, just sit back and watch them, and I learn and ask questions. And one day I brought my dogs over,
Do you
and
remember the name of the Schützen Club?
it was they were in Camarillo, so it was, I believe, was Camarillo Schützen Club or something like that. That was so many years ago.
Yeah.
They don't exist right now.
Yeah.
So when I brought my dogs, all the other trainers and the people working on the club, they really want to see how my dog's doing. So they did the evaluation and they liked what they saw. So they invite me to join in. So I pay my annual tuition to buy the equipments and I start being a handler for my dogs and I
Mhm.
learn to be an agitator. Then I start doing competition. So that was a different world and I enjoyed it. Even it was 8 o'clock till 10:30 at night. And after that, we all went and have a in and out on the way. And
Nice.
so we got to know each other and working for the company, which the way I got treated from people, I got very disappointed and I decided to actually become a dog trainer.
Nice.
So I put all my focus and all my saving towards working with couple trainers from the Schützen Club by hiring them and start learning a little bit more about how you actually effectively can work with the dogs on that level, which it was
Mhm.
mostly about working with the dogs at the high prey drive,
Mhm.
love to bite, and teaching the bite was the easiest things. Teaching them to let go was one of the hardest thing to do.
I
True.
tell people that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we
So,
hear that a lot. Yeah.
but it was the greatest challenge. Loved it. And at this time, I had no clue, even living for 10 years almost in California, I had no clue about shelter system. I had no clue about overpopulation. I had no clue about a number of the animals they die at the shelter. So all my focus was right breeders, right
Right.
working
The
dogs,
traditional working dog.
and
Yeah.
obedience on an advanced level. So that was my focus.
Mhm.
And so we were working with a pinch collar, we were working with the shock collars, we were working with everything. And in '94, after earthquake, uh, what happened was one of our hiking friends lost their dog based off the wall collapse, and he got
Mm.
out.
Mm.
And I end up to go to the shelter in West Valley. And what I saw, it changed everything. A shelter had room for maybe 200 animals. They had over 800.
Wow.
They all were fighting over food. There were blood all over the place. There
And
were
this is dogs
feces.
suffering
At
from.
each run, they had
Yeah.
like 12, dogs in it, the
Phew.
same sex and
Mhm.
unaltered,
Mhm.
and all scared. And
And
so,
real quick, so those of you guys who, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, those of you guys who aren't from Los Angeles, in 1994, there was one of the biggest earthquakes in California ever, which destroyed a huge. It was actually it's actually in the city that I live
and I lost my
in
house.
Northridge, right? And so not only was it a huge, devastating historical event in Los Angeles, but a lot of animals suffered from this as well. And just wanted to let people know about that.
Well, the story on
And
that,
and also real quick, sorry, and also the Los Angeles shelter system was shit. Was shit. I mean, how many shelters did they have back then?
Los Angeles has 6 shelters.
Now they do. How long? How
No,
many
they
did they
had
have?
six
Oh, they
shelters.
had
They
six
always
shelters.
had six
They were just
shelters,
shitty
Los
shelters.
Angeles.
Yeah.
And everything was very, very old. Everything was rusted, and
Mhm.
it was in and out, and it just
Yeah.
disgusting.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely, everything was so old, and euthanasia room was the largest part of the shelter.
Mhm.
So that's
Wow.
the sad part of it. So one of the things actually happened on '94 earthquake. My little sister was living with me. I live in the beautiful house with a nice view, which I moved in probably like 7 months before that. And when the earthquake hits, I grabbed my sister. We went under the doorway in the hallway, and we're standing there. So I called my dogs, and Baron, the dog, was adopted from my neighbor
Mhm.
with the highest training. I'm calling him, and he's not coming.
Mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we lost electricity. We cannot see anything. Finally, when it's almost stopped, I ran out with my sister and looked for him. So if he run outside, and I see him just sitting by the front door and looking at me.
Mm.
Uh, at this time, earthquake stopped, and we start hitting the aftershocks. And I walked back in. Actually, the area we were standing, the whole place, the roof collapsed.
No.
Wow.
So then I look at it as this is the second time my dog actually saved
Saved
my
your.
life.
Wow.
And so many times happen, and it just that's one of the reason I felt the way I felt about this beautiful creature, which a lot of
Mhm.
people they really don't understand what they are,
Right.
the true of dogs.
Yeah.
So when I went to the shelter, even I didn't have a place to live. I was living in my truck. My dogs they were living on the back shell, and I was sleeping in front. And go to my mom's house and take shower once every other day. But mostly, I would go to shelter and try to separate the animals, wash them, relax them a little bit, walk them a little bit. And the experience I developed changed my whole life. I realize I need to help these animals. I
Mm.
realize I need to be voice of these creatures. I realize The staff working with the shelter, they have no passion about helping the situation.
Mhm.
Is nothing except 9 to 5 job for them,
Right.
and they don't care if a dog dies. They have no clue how people feel when they're losing their animals. And not because they were bad people, they really didn't have an understanding because they were dealing with such a huge overpopulation, which we saved 2 dogs and 9 of them come in at the same exact day. So,
Wow.
so we could not keep up with the intake. So I taught a lot and I stayed for 6 months. Every day I was at the shelter and not seeing any clients or anything because the whole city was down, kind of. And
And this is all post earthquake.
this
This is
is
all
all right after,
still the
yeah,
city's rebuilding.
rebuilding.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people, they found their dogs, but they didn't have a home. They didn't have a fencing anymore. So situation was bad. So I went to general manager at the time, Mr. Gary Olson,
Hmm.
and I told them, how about you guys are closed Sunday and Monday? And Sunday is the biggest family day. People go to church. After that, the whole family together. Saturday, a lot of people work. Some people with different religion, they're not working on Saturday. Why don't we open Sunday as well and have another day, middle of a week, to be closed?
Hmm.
Unfortunately, there were so many walls were in front of me, and every time I talked to him, I got rejected based of staff need to go to church. We cannot pay overtime, liability of the issues, and go on and on and on. So I start going to city hall to the meeting with the council people and bring them up. And the city attorney didn't want us to do anything. So I said, if you guys not going to open Sunday, how about allow us volunteer taking animals to the public, because a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable come to the shelter.
Right.
Mhm.
And I evaluate the right animals for the adoption. I get the location. I will put a volunteer system together. And finally, after around 4 months, with help of a couple other volunteers, uh, they said, okay, you can take 2 trucks, but you have to take a course to driving the truck, no problem.
Mhm.
And how to talk to the radio, no
Mhm.
problem.
And
And
these are like city issued
yes,
animal
and
control trucks.
yes, and also you cannot touch money, so you have to have one person from the city employee to take care of the money,
Mhm.
and we're not going to pay for that person. And you can do 12 dogs, 2 trucks, and 1 truck, and each truck takes 6 animals.
Mm,
And 6 cats you can take to adoption.
mm,
So we said, no problem. We had a receptionist, which we went and told them, I said, if you don't go to church, how about you volunteer and we will pay you on the table?
mhm,
So she agreed.
mm.
And the day before on Saturday, we went and select 12 dogs and we washed them, put a ribbon on them, got the cats, brushed them, take care of everything. And I had around 25 volunteer at that time.
Wow.
So I went to the largest pet shop we had in the valley and I asked him if they allow us to have a pet adoption. They accepted because we were good clients for my business. And they said I can use the back parking lot. One of our volunteer, Judy Levine, which it was doing publicity as profession, start sending press release to all the TV channels and the news. And in the morning, we went and pick up the animals, load them up, and we pulled into this parking lot. And Brent, I gotta tell you, I felt I'm a Brad Pitt. Every
You
TV
look like Al
station,
Pacino, but you thought you were Brad Pitt.
every TV station, every reporter, every newspaper, cameras all over the place, and public just waiting for unloading and putting
Oh
puppy
my
pens.
gosh.
So anyway, within an hour and a half, all of our animal got adopted. We had to take him back to get him spay and neuter.
Mm.
And we come back with all the animals. We left all the volunteers, and I load up another 12 and another 6.
Nice. You're like, let's ride this wave.
Uh, The officer in charge stopped me and he goes, "No, they told me 12." I said, "No, they told me 12
At
at
a time.
time."
Yeah.
So anyway, that day we adopted 84 animals.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's funny because end of the day, 6 o'clock afternoon in summertime, every one of our volunteers, we are laying on the ground, exhausted, completely exhausted, but our smile you could not miss.
Mm.
So got home around 9 o'clock at night, and my home phone rings. Those days we had pagers, we didn't have cell phone.
Yeah.
What are pagers? No, I'm just joking.
Ask your
Are
doctor;
those
they
like
will know
are those
about
like
it.
text? What is that?
So anyway, so I pick up the phone. I thought he's one of my volunteer, and the first thing comes up, and he goes, "Bobby." I go, "Yes." He goes, "This is Gary Olson."
The
And
general
I'm like,
manager
general
of LA
manager
Animal
of LA
Services.
Animal Services. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm fired.
You're a volunteer.
So, yeah, they do volunteers. So I said, "What can I do for you?" And he goes, "Well, I just talked to our mayor, and he was very, very impressed. And I want to ask you, can you continue this work and do it every weekend?
Amazing.
And you will have our support." And I'm like, not only I will do that, but Saturday also I would like to hold the open house at the shelter. So hang up the phone. I'm excited. I'm watching news.
That's awesome.
Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 11, Channel 13. They all talking about this pet adoption.
Amazing.
Right? So we start doing that. At end of that uh, year, we dropped the euthanasia for city of Los Angeles by 9%.
Wow.
And I had over 900 volunteers.
Whoa.
And I had 6 shelters. I was a volunteer coordinator and a pet adoption coordinator for 6 shelters, which means I had the key and they give me a badge to be able to go and select animals and put which one is actually going for adoption so they would be safe for that adoption week and open houses. So the whole mentality of the staff, they got so excited because think about it, even they had to do their job and they're used to putting animals down, but still they had some favorites.
Right.
So you don't know how many times the ACA will come over and they go, "I really love this dog. Can you take him to adoption? Can you find him a home?" And that develops such a strong relationship with us as a volunteer and the staff of the shelter and bring such a positive energy. And to a point, they will call me and they go, "This jerk brought the dog in. They tell me the dog is aggressive." Because if you bring a dog to shelter, says the dog bite, they had to put him to sleep within 2 hours. And that 2 hours was based of the person can change his mind, not for adoption. So I had to get involved with it. And there were times I would just go on the back and cry and come back in and smile and start doing adoption. Or so many times you will see me and somebody bringing animals and lying, and the animals were not aggressive and they were lying. Me and him had a huge, a challenge of a conversation, I would say.
You mean a fight?
To a point, they kind of throw me out of the shelter a couple of times for a short period of time. Or I would ask him to go outside and meet me on the street, not at the public, the facility of the Los Angeles properties.
Yeah.
So that's how I started mobile pet adoption. For 3 years, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then they hired 2 people to take my position. And still I was handling the mobile pet adoption.
Wow.
At middle of this, I realized the number of animals we work so hard to find a home for. The ratio was so much less than the number entered to the shelter. So I came up with the idea of developing a nonprofit as educating the public. So that's how New Leash on Life was born. At this time, I met my wife, which was my girlfriend. I sat down at dinner and I go, "I want to do this." And she goes, "I completely support you." So we developed a nonprofit called New Leash on Life Animal Rescue. And which unfortunately is not at this time is not anything as good as used to be.
Mhm.
And we developed this program. So I talked to the new general manager, and I asked them if we can do free seminars for anybody who want to return animals or anybody adopt the animals on every shelter. So every week we would have gone to one shelter from furthest away from each other. So one day I'm in the valley, another day I'm in South Central, another day I'm in North Hollywood,
Mhm.
another time I'm in North Central. So if they miss it, they can come back a week later. And I bought chairs and I bought all the stuff I need, the do's and don'ts, how to housebreak your dog, importance of spay and neutering, importance of the training. So we developed that program and it worked very well.
Mm.
And we've been busy. We like every Saturday morning, I bought a van through my company and drove
So
it.
it's yeah, everything that I mean, the beautiful part about what I'm hearing is just how you kept pushing the needle forward. You kept really trying to
Well, you got to find solution, Brent.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because very easily you can give up.
Yeah,
Life is easy when you want to give up.
right,
But the fact of the matter, every problem there is a solution for it.
right.
It's just matter of put your head together. Don't
Yep,
be stressful. Don't be
yep,
too emotional,
yep,
and find out how you can actually solve that problem.
yep.
So when you see somebody from Iran without speaking the language in the background of a Muslim, which I never followed because as a Muslim I'm not allowed to even touch a dog or
Yeah.
own a dog.
Wow.
So then you come back and you make such a change on the country, which is well advanced, well educated,
Uh-huh.
and a lot more budget.
Yeah.
So anybody can make that difference. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of how much they're willing to do it.
And the
Did I want to
drive.
get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, load up a van, and go to South Central and deal with the gangs and convince them to spay and neuter or don't dog fight or
Mhm.
rather fighting the dog to make $50, how about become a trainer and make
Mhm.
$100 an
Mhm.
hour?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden you will see spark in their eyes.
Right. Right, right,
Okay,
right.
so my job was to be an educator, not necessarily because I want to be an educator,
Mhm.
because I had a passion for what I get out of that teaching.
Yeah.
You
No,
know what's
Okay,
something that sticks out to me, you guys, as we talk about this is sorry to cut you off, Bobby.
you go ahead.
There's something that I've heard that's a saying that I really like, and it was too many people mistake habit for hard work. And I noticed that it's the kind of thing that's easy to do when you get into like the routine of, now I'm doing this and I'm here now. But it seems to me like there are a few special people that I've been lucky enough to know, that you never lose sight of like, okay, well, I've kind of built to this point. Now I'm comfortable. Now it's time to build to the next point and get comfortable, and the next point, and you just kind of keep scaling up. And I wish that more people, especially in this industry, thought like that because you know there there are a ton of dog trainers in the world today. I don't know if it was different back in the day, who are just kind of okay training like a dog or two here and there, with a Facebook page and an Instagram, but no like a website, like little things. They just don't seem that interested in scaling up and turning up their ability to help things.
True, true, true. And I want you to know when I'm doing all this labor, labor of love work, I'm not getting paid. I'm
Hmm.
not putting focus on my business, but my passion brought me business to a point I would be able to easily survive and be able to do the things I want to do. So I had such a huge support from public for people they love animals. And so that's how that started. And we end up to actually getting so many less animals ending up to the shelter on the area, and all they had to do put a tag on their dogs
Hmm.
or close their gate. So I would start going to the schools on the uh, not a great areas and talk to kids and teach them about not much except how you react when you see a loose dog, what you do, what you don't do. Be a tree, be a rock, don't have eye contact, put a collar and tag on your dog,
Hmm.
close your gate when you're leaving the room,
Mhm.
fix that gate if you need to. And all of a sudden, the number of the animals on the streets are a lot less.
Yeah.
Okay, so and my nonprofit even was educational, but I don't know if you've been to the shelter. It's very hard to go to the shelter and knock. not walk out with a dog.
Yeah.
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 It's so I start rescuing. So out of a sudden, I have over 22 rescue dogs in my house, which is against the law. I only could have three, and I already had my three. So we, find them a home to every one of our clients. And these are very different than mobile pet adoption. I couldn't take them to mobile pet adoption because they
Mhm.
were ownered because I rescued them. I was an owner. But we develop New Leash on Life to be stronger to a point in 2002. I would be able to actually purchase a ranch, 12-acre ranch with a 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom house. And we develop a safety haven for the animals we rescued.
Yeah.
We made 2 dog park, each one were 3 to 5 acre actually,
Right.
on the little bit of a hillside. We fence them, we grass them, we irrigate them through volunteers. And
Mm.
it was funny because all my own friends, which a lot of them, they were very rich, young Iranian friends, they sent their teenager, they would drive their teenager over there and they would leave him there for a day. And I had to teach them how to ride tractors, how to ditch a hole, how to do an irrigation system. And
You were
actually,
like Uncle
most of
Bobby.
them, not only that, but I just saw one of them around a couple of weeks ago, and he's a huge attorney in Beverly Hills. And this kid, and he still tells me how much he learned about responsibility and being organized. So we develop such a relationship between people and animals, and then I start putting my focus on. So what we did at New Leash on Life, when we did the rescue, I want to do more. I
Right.
want to do so much more.
Right. Real quick, Bobby, you mentioned, so you mentioned um your background, you mentioned the country you come from, you mentioned how the religion and the belief of that country made it really taboo to even deal with dogs. What was it like, moving to Los Angeles? I know there's a huge Persian community out here in LA. What was it like being the Persian dog trainer?
Well, when I came here, there weren't that many Persian because I came before
Oh, right,
revolution.
right, right. Sorry. Yeah,
So I came in January of 1978.
yeah.
Revolution happened in 79.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there were not many Iranian. There were some, but there were not that many of them around here.
Hmm.
So my focus, I love the country based off the freedom you have. I love the country because all the options you had. I love
Hmm.
the country because you can actually go to the beach and spend the day and go for a walk and nobody going to bother you.
Right.
And so it was such a huge difference.
Right.
Okay. What I missed was my kind of food.
Yeah.
Okay, which is very, very different than I used to it. So how many times you're gonna have hamburger and a pizza? So I
Right.
always want. I wish they had more restaurants, which right now on every corner. So it was different. The problem I had, my experience controlling the overpopulation back home, was about a truck goes with 2 people on the back with the gun,
Hmm.
with a rifle, and they would shoot any animal they see on the street.
Hmm.
And I was what, 11 years old, 12 years old, riding with a bicycle, and I see the first time I see this situation. So I end up to go to a friend of mine and I borrow his BB gun. And I follow these people with my bicycle with a BB gun in my hand. And when they stopped to shoot a dog, I told the guy, if you shoot, I'll shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I shot, so
Wow.
good. So I hit him right on the bottom of the eye. So I end up to go in jail at the age of 12. And my
Wow.
dad had to pay it off and get me out because I was underage, but had to pay for all the medical. But the funny things about it, after 2 or 3 times this situation of me running after them, developed such a reputation in my neighborhood. None of those government agents want to come to the neighborhood because it was a crazy kid with a gun will shoot them.
With a BB gun.
And that actually happened. So a passion always something I followed.
Right.
Okay. And yes, my dad wanted me to be a doctor or be an engineer or be an attorney and all those. But my passion was more about helping and helping human, helping animals, and do the things I want to do. So yes, I was a black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
How did you avoid like analysis paralysis? How did you avoid just getting down on yourself and just stop doing things, because that's something that, I mean, I've struggled with personally. I'm sure everybody in the world has. But I noticed that people who have these huge accomplishments, regardless of like the field that they're in, it's not that they didn't have challenges, because clearly you did and everybody else does. It's just they figured out how to keep moving.
Well, again, when you have a passion, you're not working.
Right.
So you constantly follow your passion. So it's very different about going to work 9 to 5 and you go, you know what, I'm tired of this job. I don't want to sit in this cube. I don't want to do this. And as you know me, I'm not the type of person to sit down. Everybody knows me. Most of the time, I didn't even have an office, or you never find me in my office at work.
Right.
Okay. So all the problems, I mean, I had a lot of financial problems. It was a time I only had $10. I didn't know I should eat or should I put a gas in my car to go see a
I've
client.
been
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. Hmm.
A client paid me $350 for the 6 weeks course over 80 miles away, and I only have $10, and I'm on the third, session,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I end up to actually put gas in the car. My mom would call me and go, "Come over for dinner. Let me bring you dinner." And I didn't have food, and I would say, "No, thank you," because I didn't want him to feel I'm broke.
Too proud.
So
You don't want to
uh,
waste the extra gas in the car.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge I had in my life was my anger issue with the things were not acceptable to me.
Mm.
Mm.
So when somebody kick a dog, I was at their
Yeah,
face.
that's an interesting thing,
Mm.
guys, because
Hmm.
I've only known Bobby as an adult, and I met him when I was 18 years old, back in 2006, and he's always been a nice, put together, caring, passionate individual. But from what you're telling us, that wasn't always the case.
No, I seriously, that's the reason I got out of the shelter a couple times. They got thrown out of the shelters. One of the captains called me Pitbull.
Mm,
So many times I had a challenge of dealing with 7 homeless person. They were abusing their dog and laughing about it, and they were drunk, and I'm in the
Mm.
middle. And I'm not a big guy,
mhm,
and for some reason I could be able to take that dog and take him to the hospital,
mm,
and they backed off, which they didn't want to do that. So my anger issue was my biggest challenge of my life.
mm,
And even my parents, they wouldn't sit in the car with me, or they wouldn't my sisters wouldn't go to public that much with me, because one little thing would trigger, I was out right in front of it. And my dad always says, "Bobby, one of these days you're going to have a bullet between your eyes.
mm,
So don't be stupid."
mm,
But it took me a long time to be able to uh, control myself from being frustrated to be aggressive.
mhm.
Okay.
And I think I did a very, very good job, based on I dealt with so many different people which I want to break their neck, and I
Yep.
smile at them.
Yep.
You know, can I ask you this? And if you know, and you don't have to answer this, if you
Sure.
don't want to. So I want to ask you this right now, and I'll explain why when I'm done with the question. Okay. So how how did you work on yourself in that sense? And here's the reason why I ask you that, because not only just me personally, have I learned over the years that personal flaws, they hold you back in your goals so much. Even if dog training and rescues and things like that, they're more like professional as opposed to like your own personal life. It's insane how you get in your own way. I've seen that myself. In fact, one of the big things in my life that I regret still was kind of how I left things with you guys. I don't know how long ago that was now. You know, um, and it was just an embarrassing moment for me because like I knew better even at the time, but I don't know, it was just this weird period of weakness, and I've since worked on myself too, and I realized like, man, it's insane. And all these other people again who I meet, business people and successful people in whatever field, athletics, you know, they understand the value of working on yourself and how good it is and how necessary it is, but it's not that easy. So how'd you do it?
Well, again, I learn a lot from my dogs.
Okay.
I knew I have an aggression issue. I knew I was an angry kid. Based up the way I was raised, I was separated My parents were separated when I was 5 years old.
Mhm.
So I lived with my dad. My dad, army background, high school principal in a very, very bad neighborhood. And those days, hitting kids was a good thing.
Mhm.
It was
So,
mandatory, actually.
it's seriously, you got to straight them up.
Mhm, mhm,
So I grew up as a very strict, but also was very angry at life because I felt I didn't get that motherly passion and holding me and letting me everything is going to be okay.
Mhm.
We're dealing with a father which is so strict, loving me, but is so strict about every angle to a point. If you go out, you get in the fight. If you come back and cry, I'm going to beat you up.
mhm,
So if you cannot handle it, don't get in the fight.
mhm,
Okay. So that's the mentality of a very proud father.
Mhm.
Okay. And I always been very little. I mean, I was adult, I was 125 pounds and a 5'8".
Yeah.
So skin and bone. So what happened every time I got angry, I would break things, I get pissed off, but to release it, I would get behind the car and I would drive off. I wouldn't deal with anybody. I would want to go somewhere quiet. The problem was, oh my God, if somebody cut me off. Now there's a bigger challenge
mhm,
because
mhm,
I'm very angry and that person needs to get pulled off and I need to go out and I need to beat the shit out of him
mhm,
or push him off the freeway. I mean, that was my anger level. So most of the time I would go by the beach and I would sit down and I just relax. Okay. Then I realized how fucked up I was.
Mm.
Why did I do this? It wasn't any reason for me to throw the TV from the balcony down because I had an argument with my sister. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
mhm,
So, what actually helped me, I was walking with a girlfriend in 30th Street Promenade with my Roddies.
Mhm.
Now, my Roddies under command will attack. My Roddies, if they feel I'm physically involved, they will attack. And I'm in the very high traffic area, but they are sweet as a pie.
Mhm.
Take
mhm,
the
mhm,
bone out of their mouth.
Mhm.
But they were trained that way.
mhm.
Okay. So I'm walking, and behind me, this crazy homeless guy comes over and poke my dogs. So my dog turned around and started growling at the guy, and the guy started spitting at my dogs.
Oh.
So the first thing I do, I take my watch and my glasses off.
Mhm,
And I told the guy to back off before I knock him down.
Mhm.
Then I realize the moment I touch this guy, my dogs will kill him
mhm,
and my dogs will be put to sleep.
Mm.
So if you imagine what I had to go through to control myself, not to beat the hell out of this guy, just because I had to hold on to my dogs.
Mhm.
So I walked to the cops. I told the cops what's going on. They didn't give a damn. And I end up walking away from the situation. My girlfriend goes, I'm very, very proud of you. So you can control yourself. Then I realized actually I'm strong enough to control myself.
Mm. That was a virtue.
So
Yeah.
I just real clicked. Seriously, it clicked. I did not kill this guy.
Yeah.
But if my dogs were not there, maybe I wouldn't have any kind of a situation with this guy. Maybe I would.
Mhm.
Okay. But because of my dog, my anger level went to the extreme.
mhm,
To a point again, I took my watch off, put them in my pocket, take my glasses, and to my girlfriend, and I'm ready to say, hold on to these dogs. But I knew she would not going to be able to control my dog the
mhm,
moment I get physical with this guy.
Mhm.
mhm.
So I had to back off, back off, back off. And my dog growling and showing teeth, and this guy just coming towards me and coming towards me.
Right.
So, and that was the time I realized I can. And from that moment on, everything has started getting better.
Yeah,
Start
it's interesting because a lot of people not a lot of people, I've heard a couple people say this, "You have to do the thing to have the power." And I liken that to, I have, like, just in my family, let's say, because 'cause I'm a really small guy too, by the way, um, is, every New Year, let's say, like, my sisters would be like, "Okay, I wanna start working out. This is the year. I'm gonna get in shape. I'm gonna blah, blah, blah." And so they buy all the stuff, all the workout clothes, all the memberships and everything else, and then they just never do it,
Of
you know?
course, I've done
But
it.
And the reason what I've heard about this, because I do and did, even like back when we were all working together, was a lot of the fighting sports. Boxing was my big thing back then, and I train to this day, but I do a lot of like jujitsu now. And the thing about that is, it sucks getting hit a lot. So even if you love the sport and have fun, sometimes you wake up and you're like, I don't really want to go, and I would look up people online to motivate me to get my ass out of bed and go. And one person I found in particular was like, "Listen, all these people that do," and he was explaining my sisters, you buy all the stuff, you get yourself ready, you buy the fanciest gear, $200 gloves when I'm making 10 bucks an hour because you think it's going to put you in this mentality to where now you can do it, but you don't get that energy until you do the thing that earns you that energy. So that's why he was saying you have to do the thing to have the power. Go to the gym with those shitty ass gloves, and then when you get momentum going, go buy you some nice ones.
Yeah.
I'm with you because since 5, I've been in martial art, and I was very little. And when I was at Air Force, I went to Air Force Academy after high school.
You were in the Air Force, Bobby?
Yes, for 3 years and 2 years of army back home.
Okay.
So I was very strong. I was little, but I was one of those guys people knew they should not get involved with at the same time. Okay. And I remember at a very young age, that's how I learned to be stronger in public. I was standing by the bus stop, and this guy, bigger than me, jumped out and stepped on my toes. And I told him, "Hey, watch out." And this guy surprised the hell out of me and beat the shit out of me. I mean,
Mm,
I had a black eye, I had a fat lip. And I learned from that moment on, will always be defensive as well. But if you have the power, don't start anything.
mhm,
And I controlled myself on that point. My problem was when I was getting angry. And
mhm,
that's why
mhm.
I brought him up. Anytime I see somebody abusing their dogs, that was my trigger. I could not control
Mm.
You know,
because I would just go right in. I would go front of that dog. And I knew if the guy will start kicking, I will grab him.
right.
So that was mine till my dog taught me a little bit differently. Okay.
It's funny because the way that you're explaining that sounds to me like the way that I explain, uh, high drivey dogs. It's
Yeah.
like they're very their nature is good. All that nonsense that you hear about whatever breeds and everything like that, they're not bad animals. They're not out to get you. They're capable of love. They're capable of all these things. It's just when they get excited, they do stupid things. It doesn't
That,
make them bad. It's just excitement can be dangerous, you
I
know?
guess I was a high drive dog one in the other life.
Yeah. What kind would you be? Would you be a Malinois? Would you be a pit
Probably I was
bull?
a Jack Russell.
Jack Russell Terrier.
Probably I was a
That's
Jack Russell.
that's about right.
Yeah, I would say I was a Jack Russell Terrier. Small body and had no clue what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
So that's how everything is started. So what I was going to tell you, at New Leash on Life, I want to do more. And what I want to do was, I want to let the public knows, because I had a lot of clients with a lot of money from Beverly Hills, from attorneys, from doctors. And anytime they want to get a dog, I say rescue. When it goes, oh no, 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 those are not good. I'd rather go to breeder and spend $3,000.
Mhm.
Okay. And they wouldn't even know what they're getting because they will go to the wrong breeders, the people they just do inbreeding, and they're
Mhm.
just doing what the puppy looks like and how much money they get out of it. So I want to change that mentality. So that was my next challenge at my nonprofit. So I said, I have the knowledge, I have volunteers, I can teach volunteers, I can train volunteers, and I'm going to go to the shelter and I'm going to pull 3 dogs and I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to train them to be a service dog. So that's what I did. The first dog I rescued was Terran, black shepherd, which when I saw him at the shelter, I didn't know he's shepherd. No hair, just the black skin
Oh man.
and mange. But this dog, I mean, I read him, and this dog was great. So I rescued him, and I rescued 2 other ones, and I brought him in. 2 of them passed after the obedience. This dog ended up to be the most beautiful, unbelievable, shiny, dark, dark black hair, and it became unbelievably great dog for working with kids.
Mm.
Okay, so We done three of them in matter of 7 months, and we adopt them out to the family they need. We had therapists talk to them and introduce them and go from there. And my first client, which he followed in love with Terran, was a 7-year-old kid, which at 7 years old did not speak.
Mm.
And they came over. We showed them three dogs. For some reason, Terran and her, they get along very well. They came back for 6 different sessions with the therapist. We went over. We did the adoption. 2 weeks later, I got this letter from their mom. She's talking to the dog. And even now, I got a
The
goosebump.
little girl's talking to the dogs.
Yes.
Oh shit.
She started talking.
Oh my
And
gosh.
after all this therapy they went in, they were shocked about how she started talking after 2, 3 weeks.
Wow.
So then all of a sudden we start working with volunteers. They brought their own dogs. We start training them to be a therapy dog. We went to the hospitals. We went to retirement homes. We went to everybody. We had 84 animals going to different places every week. So that was the next step. The program I called Lendepa. So it went on for around 6, 7 years with no problem. So that's how that start.
So real
Uh,
quick to dive in. So you started this nonprofit with your girlfriend, who's now your wife of how long now?
20 years.
20 years. And you guys started educational programs. You started a therapy dog program called Lend a Paw to help take shelter animals and turn them into therapy and service dogs. And then 2005 comes around. Okay, I was a junior in high school, I think, at the time,
Hmm.
2005, and Hurricane Katrina came and just decimated the South, Louisiana, New Orleans,
Everywhere, yeah.
everywhere, decimated the South. And this has always been one of my favorite stories of yours, Bobby. Is how you? I'll just line it up and you give us the details. Let's actually paint the picture. You also started a new company, and when was it?
2006.
2006. You were so in 2005 you were building a new company, right? Like
True.
putting in the drywall, laying the piping down, all of this stuff. And in the middle of all this natural disaster happens.
Well, yeah. Um, just for you to know, Ashton was born in 2003, end of 2003.
Ah, okay, there you go.
Okay. His birthday was yesterday.
Oh wow.
So,
Happy birthday, Ashton.
yeah. So, Ashton is a little bit over a year
Okay.
developing new company. I took a special course with SPCA in San Diego uh, about animal law because I want to know, and also I want to be an estate officer
Mm-hmm.
to go against cruelty to animals. So
Mm.
there is so much I had to know. So for 2 weeks, I packed and I went to San Diego, and it's over 400 pages of a book. We finish it in 2 weeks. So I'm in the hotel, 8 hour class, come home, research, do the paper, go back, 8 hour class, come back, have Sunday off. A lot of times, Kelly and Ashton came over on Saturday
Nice.
and stay with me for a day. Then they would leave. And driving back from San Diego, on the news, I find out because I didn't watch TV, I didn't listen to radio. I realized we just had Katrina going on.
Oh wow.
So I'm coming home. I called a friend of mine, Cash,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Oh my God, it's very bad. I have a lot of friends in Texas, and they got the end of it, but it's not bad in Texas." I said, "I want to go," and he goes, "Let's do it." So I go home and take care of a couple things. I start calling all the vets I was dealing with, all the pet shop I was dealing with, all of my supporters with New Leash on Life, and kind of put a meeting together with the board. And I said, this is what I want to do, and it's not going to cost the nonprofit any money. I will put them on, or I will gather money for this program.
Mhm.
Because if I want to do it for nonprofit, I had to go through the
Board.
meetings and the board has to approve it and put a
Mhm.
budget on it. But it was such a disaster. It wasn't about the budget. It's about what we can do.
Mhm.
So we end up to loading up the van with used crates, foldable crates, brand new crates, a lot of food. Then I called friend of mine, best friend,
Francis.
Francis, and I said, I'm planning to come over. And he goes, oh my God, we need covers, we need this.
Yeah,
So
those of you
in
guys who don't know who Francis is, he's the founder of
Best
Best
Friend
Friends.
Animal Sanctuary
Yeah, in
Society.
Utah, and also one of the founders of NKLA out here in Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
So I said, okay, I will get the list what you need. Let me know if you need any help. Let me know. I'll be glad to do it. So me and Cash with the 15 passenger van, which it was completely empty with all the seats, full of everything you could imagine, from medication of antibiotics to whatever you can imagine. We load them up, and the roof rack, which it was a 12-foot roof rack, stack up 6 foot high. And me and Cash, we start driving towards Louisiana.
Hmm.
On the way, I got a call and they said they need cover and they need tarps because it still rains and they have shelters going on. So in Texas, we went there and we purchased from Home Depot every tarp they had.
Hmm.
We bought cases of the tarps. So we go there, we drop them off to best friend. I noticed they have a lot of volunteers.
Hmm.
So we get back and we went to HSUS and SPCA Center because I had a badge from SPCA and also I worked with HSUS in past. So we go there and going to sign in. I told them I have some crates and I have some food. And the first question on the table was, are they brand new in the box? Because if they're not in the box, we don't need it. So all of a
Okay.
sudden, my anger start coming up again, and I'm like, "Are you guys a pet shop or are you guys rescue facility? I have nothing for you guys." It was very late, haven't slept for 2 nights almost. So we went in. They had this tent, beautiful air conditioning, heating, everything you can imagine, and shower. And they used this ranch, which it was 90 miles away from the city. And they have all kind of food. They got everything else they need. So I said, okay, what time is the rescue, search and rescue starts? They said 5 o'clock in the morning, line up in the front. 5 o'clock in the morning, I feel I'm very capable. I have all the equipment I need. Standing up, there are more than 200 volunteers standing up. This person comes over, took 10 people, and he goes, okay, see you guys tomorrow. And I look at Cash and I'm like, I didn't drive down here to wait till tomorrow.
Hmm.
So we go back in, we packed up. I noticed a bunch of volunteers sitting. I said, I'm going to the city. I want to go to the middle of this hurricane and I want to rescue who's coming. We end up to have 5 cars following me. So we go to Louisiana and obviously it was closed, but based off all the badges and everything else they allowed me to go and I told them those 4 cars are with me.
Hmm.
So we go in, we went to Winn Dixie and we camp out. No electricity, no water, no nothing, no bathrooms, nothing. So we start working. I had probably 5 gallon tank of a gas. I had a 50-gallon water tank on the top of the van, and I had 5 generators I took with me from LA. So we set up the situation, and based off my shits and work with police department in past, I contact Louisiana Police Department before the trip. They told me 2 of their dogs are passed, but they need antibiotic.
Hmm.
So I end up to go to the police station, introduce myself to them, and give them all the antibiotic and everything. But at 7 o'clock at night, nobody could drive or go through the city at all. I told them my problem is I need to go back and get more stuff come back. So they give me a pass, they give me a siren to put on my car,
That's cool.
and they allow me, they give me a pass so I can go at any time, I can go in and out of the city.
Hmm.
So at night, I will drive 90 miles, fill up all the gas tanks, go to HSUS, pick up some food. They thought I'm their volunteers, but we needed food over there. And we start rescuing animals. They find out I work with aggressive dogs, so I end up to be
Like
a
the point person, right?
point person to the animals. They show aggression because then police or sheriff or anybody else that will shoot them if they see them, they're
Right.
showing aggression.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How many rescue organizations were there at the
Oh,
time?
a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. There were a lot of individual from the person does rescue alligator to I'm not joking,
Duck
with a little
rescue.
tiny boat to the dog rescue to the cat rescue. A lot of crazy people. We had a 9-year-old Rambo. The guy had 2 guns on the side, knife on the things. It was the size of a machete,
Wow.
and bullying everybody around. We had all kind of a people. So we were there, and they told us there is another storm coming in, so we need to leave the area. So we load up uh, 7 dogs and 3 cats, and we drove back to Los Angeles,
Mm.
full of animals in the car. So we came back, and the last thing I remember, I told my buddy, and I go, there is no way I can go back to that situation. There is no way I can handle that kind of a stress of a 1 week of a stress. So I'm back home around 2 weeks. I got foster for all the dogs. We found one of the owners of one of the dogs. So I decided to go back. So I put from New Leash on Life, I put an email out. I'm going back. I'll pay for all the expenses. And we met a lot of people there from Florida. I contacted them. They were vet techs,
So wait, you said you weren't gonna go back,
but I went.
and then you said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna
Yes.
go back again."
So I went and I rented a toy hauler and a truck. And I remember I borrowed Tia Torres's truck
No, Tia Torres is
with the people rescue.
Pitbull and Parolees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I borrowed her truck, and another friend had a big RV. So he brought the RV. We had 4x4 trucks, one van, and around 24 volunteer from Orange County all the way to the valley. So we did a caravan, and we went and we made the mobile hospital because 2 of the volunteers, they were vets, one from Canada and one from Florida.
Mm.
And we paid for their gas. We had food for everybody, and we stayed another 3 weeks. And
Wow.
we brought back 84 animals back to us. We did over 3,500 rescue way over. We developed a program in Los Angeles. Anybody want to rescue, we did a background check on them because a lot of dog fighters, they were coming and selecting animals.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also we had an 800 number we developed. Anybody was living there, they had to leave their animals, they could contact that number, and then they would contact us. They give us the address, name, and description of the animal and where they hide usually. And with the GPS, we would go and we rescue those animals and we contact their owners.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we make the calendar with all the rescue we do. We send them through email, and they would make the calendar with all the animals, and they would send them to the states close to Louisiana. So if there is somebody moved out, they can find their animals. So we brought back 84 animals. On the road, we find another dog in Texas. We picked that one up as well, middle of freeway at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we divide them to different organizations, which we knew. It was amazing how everybody got involved. And 3 days later, we got back on Friday. 3 days later, on Monday, I got a call from one of our volunteers still at Louisiana. They said HSUS left, and they left 120 pit bull behind.
Oh my God.
That means they're going to be killed. So we end up, through some of our good connection, we end up to getting the private plane. and they brought all of those to Los Angeles as well,
Oh wow.
and we divide them between organizations. So that was my story of Louisiana and a challenge we had to deal
Wow.
with everybody there.
Wow. So you went to Hurricane Katrina multiple times. We have
Total of a month I was
a
there.
total of a month cumulatively,
Yeah.
both trips.
And remember, Ashton is 1 year old, Kelly
Yeah.
running my business.
I know.
And one of my trainers was doing the training,
Yeah.
and that was the time when I was gone. They hired Sharon.
Yeah. Good old Sharon. Sharon was one of my first training managers. Shout out to Sharon Vincula.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, so all of this has happened. So you saved over 300 dogs, but over 3,500 animals.
Rescue.
So lizards, alligators,
I
cats.
didn't do alligators.
No
I
alligators.
didn't do alligators.
So like
We did everything
so
from
cats,
birds
birds.
to even anything, something little, something big. We just pulled anything we could pull out.
Anything that had a life. That was really
And
awesome.
it was exhausting. Believe me, I would go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 4:35.
Yeah, I mean I've heard this tale, many times from multiple people, and this could be its own documentary. What you guys went through in Hurricane Katrina, the stories,
A lot of pictures.
it's a little. It reminded me when I would hear it, just to give people some visual. If you ever seen the movie Zombieland, it's kind of like it's everything is barren. No one's around. There's empty cars on the road. There's all this other
the
stuff.
funny things about it, you saying that. Remember, there were no colors.
Mm-hmm.
There were no sound.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get to that position, you're not going to understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there is no bird singing. There is no greenery. Everything is gray.
Just mud.
Everything is mud. Then your passion hit and your emotion hits, because you go to the house. They're supposed to have dogs because they said beware of dog, and you see in the backyard there are two dead dogs on the 6 foot leash, which the water went over 12 foot.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or some of them, they're hanging from the electric post because the water brought them up and they died and they landed. I mean, it just like you just want to cry.
Yeah.
And you just want to know why government didn't allow these people to take their pets.
Yeah.
Or they put a dog in the crate on the first floor, rather putting them on the second floor in a crate, or let them loose at least so they have a chance to survive.
Yeah.
So they were so emotional and so sad. So you got to be very, very strong to be able to be effective on that type of a situation.
Yeah.
Okay, not many people could do it. A lot of people, they had to leave right away. A lot of people were crying all night. So we end up to spending more time to calming those people down than doing the rescue you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it was.
That's tough just to even think, to think of lost life in human standpoint, animal standpoint.
Sad.
It's that's tough.
Here's a question, Bobby.
Shoot.
With that being, what it was, it just because I kind of get what you mean, where people are just so overwhelmed that you're having to walk backwards just to make sure that they're okay before you start the job.
True.
But naturally, how do you prepare somebody for something like this? So I guess my question to you is, having been there, how do you prepare somebody for this kind of thing?
Oh, one more time. Can you say the question one more time?
Yeah, sure. So how do you even begin to prepare these volunteers, these people for that kind of work?
Not easy. I wish I had an answer for you, because first day when I got there, me and Cash, my first rescue, which it was very emotional. We did this rescue, and while we're doing this rescue, we hear a gunfire.
Hmm.
And 3 houses up, there were 4 dogs, and this guy just shot one of them right on the chest. Okay. And I'm pulling this dog, which is a mastiff, but probably weighs 20 pounds. You can see every bone on his body.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very emotional because what happened, we go to this house and we knocked and we open the door and we go in and we calling for anything there so we can hear some sound of anything, and nothing. We walking out, and we hear this little tap and it stops.
Hmm.
So we follow the tap. We noticed the fridge was moved in front of a door. So we don't see the door because the water moved it.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
move the fridge and we hear this. And when we open the door, this dog pretty much dead, laying down, but his tail was hitting the door.
His tail was wagging.
So I'm
Oh
crying.
God.
I'm crying, broke a crate in half, bring him over, pick him up, put him in the crate, carry him out, start giving little bit of a water
mhm,
and
mhm,
little bit of a peanut butter. I mean, I'm talking about seriously a gram of it.
mhm, mhm,
Okay. And the moment they start licking it, we all excited. All of a sudden, I'm looking at my buddy, which is what, 20 years younger than me, and he's fit, Cash.
mhm,
And I'm like, Cash, I'm dying. I'm exhausted. I cannot stand. And he goes, I'm the same way. So we sat on the ground, which is mud and it smells, for 15 minutes. Then we look at the dog, he's been shot. So I challenge the guy, and he goes, I'm a police officer. Dog almost attacked me. I go, you could got in your car.
mhm.
You're right across the street. So it took us 2.5 hours to catch those dogs. And we end up to bring him in and euthanizing them because it was pretty bad. But you really can't because remember, I'm a very tough guy, but at the same time, I look at the commercial of Hallmark and I'm crying. So
Yeah.
it is not as easy. The key is how strong you are inside to be able to shoot for your goal. And a lot of people, they are so emotional they cannot look at their goal.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
And we experienced that a lot with so many volunteers. So we told them, why don't you guys stay in and start sending pictures to Los Angeles, start doing contact, communicating with Los Angeles, stay in the RV. We have a mobile hospital. We have, so it's just how you're going to use them. There is no way you will know what you get out of them.
Yeah.
No way.
I think in any emergency situation or profession, I think just being on the front lines, you have to
But
have.
also remember one thing
Yeah.
every time there is a disaster, we all get united.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if you like your neighbor or not, you go help him out.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and when you go to that situation, that disaster make you to team up. And I told Brent through the whole process, it's important you build a team. It's important to get people involved because one person cannot do it all.
Right.
But at the same time, I want everybody to know if I can help to change 9% dropped in euthanasia for the city of Los Angeles, so as anybody else can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
They
there
Yeah.
just want
there's
to do it.
well, there's
They
that
just
whole
want to
thing, that people, I think, have yet to learn, a lot of younger people have yet to learn that there are things that you affect directly, and then there are things that you affect indirectly, and the indirect is just as important, maybe even more important than the direct, right?
Yeah.
Like, there
I
was the
think leading
whole
by example is an indirect effect, and I think
right.
you know.
Well, exactly, because of the whole, like, Tupac thing, right? Like, I may not change the world, but I guarantee you I'll spark the mind of the person who does, right? And
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
and I think that the skill set that Bobby's kind of, describing that he was, like, working with, even if you weren't aware of it at the time, was, you know, when people don't know how they're gonna react under stress, you just have to know how to delegate them so that they stay productive, because if you can't deal with as much stress as the next guy, well, that's fine, I'm just gonna put you in a situation that's less stressful. I still need your help, but I'm gonna try to find a position for you because no one person can do it alone, you're absolutely right, and I think that it's also interesting, and I agree with you. It sounds bad. I don't know if this sounds bad or just sounds weird, but I know you know what I'm saying, Bobby, is that
No, I do.
wh- that 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 when you're in a situation like that, where just it's all bleak. I remember Katrina too because my grandma lived in Louisiana and we had to come get her to live with us.
Mhm.
Um, my stepdad's from Louisiana and his mom, and so it's so the situation looks so bland. Like you said, there's no sound, there's no nothing. It's not even sad, it's just nothing, and it's so weird, and it has this weird way of, like, muting all the bullshit in your life, and then you're just kind of operating on very basic, like, "Alright, if I can help, I'm gonna help." There's not really any
Yeah.
any nonsense if I don't like this guy or not. It's just like, okay, if you need food, I have some here. And in that way, it is kind of nice, how simple things can be.
Yeah,
Yep. Correct.
it's amazing. One thing, uh, one thing that's always kind of struck me again, and I said this early in, is the ability for you to follow your passion and the ability for every accomplishment. Because I mean, you weren't always a dog trainer, right? You did other things prior to make money. When did your life really change? Like when can you say that you said, hey, I found my passion, or like
I
when did
was
your life?
30 years old.
Okay.
Okay. And I was very successful as working for this huge company.
Mm-hmm.
We had over 300 vendors.
Mm-hmm.
I was in charge of their promotion and sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped all these people, which everybody was a family running the business under. We developed the company I work with developed the first indoor swap meet in Los
Mm,
Angeles.
cool.
Okay. So this is 300,000 square foot of a building. It's
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was perfect for me because I could walk through it all day and not get tired of it.
Mm,
Hmm.
And I helped because everybody, they had a job, but they worked there for the weekend to sell something, to make a living, and, just have it. So I helped them all the time. A situation came up after helping these people for over 2 years. I realized every single one of them, when they get an opportunity, want to stab me in the back.
mm,
And that situation happened, which is a long story.
right.
Okay. I went home that weekend after the whole weekend because it was a 3 days I was there myself. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm,
I'm tired of it.
mm,
Company give me a car, company give me a secretary, company give me a good amount of money. I'm spending money. I do whatever I want to do.
mm-hmm.
But I just lost that passion for it,
Mm-hmm.
of passion of helping everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And within a week, I resigned
Mm, mm,
and I went to training dogs.
mm. So you were tired of being burned and
I
backstabbed.
just, I rather people tell me in front of me how they feel about me, rather talk
Mm-hmm.
behind my back.
Yeah.
The person comes and hugs me and tell me how much they love me, and the first step they try to stab me on the back. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want that energy in my life. I don't want
Right.
that person in my life.
Right.
So as you know, I go with my energy. As you
Mm-hmm.
know, through
Mm-hmm.
working with me, you see how important was the energy of everybody at work.
Right.
Everybody should smile. Everybody should be positive.
Right.
If you're not feeling right, don't come to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and all of a sudden, I realize this is not work. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I can work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night and not be tired.
Yeah.
Okay. And that passion made me to educate myself. When you working as a trainer, my focus always been to all of our trainers. Okay. You need to learn every method of training.
Mm-hmm.
And I had reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because if you don't have every training method, just like a teacher with the kids, you cannot deal with kids all at the same level.
Right.
They're very different.
Yeah.
And it is very important, all the training level to be able to be successful, because the way I look at it, and unfortunately, in past, I deal with a lot of trainers which they didn't have a knowledge, and
One
they
dimensional.
and they
Yeah.
want it exactly, and they just want to make money on it, and don't know how many people they hire me and says, I work with 3 trainers. They said this dog is not adoptable, and in 10 minutes I show them the dog is adoptable
Mm.
or the dog is trainable. 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I make my money.
Yeah.
Because if one method didn't work, I come up with a method by reading the dog and dealing with what the dog will accept
Yeah. Yeah.
and how I can get the most out of that dog.
Right.
My point was, if that person wouldn't call me, it will actually take a dog to shelter and go, my trainer said
Mhm.
this dog is not trainable,
Right.
or this dog is not a good dog.
Right.
What's that mean? That means let's kill the dog. So my question is, if you have a dog and you think they're not trainable, just shoot them. Why you want to take them to the shelter?
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
you deal with it yourself, or find the solution for that problem by
Mhm.
finding the right trainer. So my recommendation always to all the trainer is been, it's not one method of a training.
Mhm.
Especially I work with a lot of rescue.
Mhm.
Oh my God, if they see a pinch collar.
Mhm.
Oh my God, some of these rescue, if they see a choke chain.
Yeah.
Oh no, shoulder harnessed only. So I have a Rottweiler, want to kill anybody come close to it, and the person is 95 pounds and cannot control the dog, and they want him on the shoulder harness, but they want the dog to be friendly.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Silly.
come on.
Silly. Yeah.
Okay. So job of a trainer is not only educate them, also bring them to a point to find out. And one of the example I always give to these rescue or the clients was, you have a child has a tumor, but it doesn't like needles. Would you take them to the surgeon to remove the tumor so they can survive and they be alive? Or are you going to focus on, oh, they have to give them an injection IV to put them down?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so let's try it. So I let them put the pinch collar on their arm. I let them understand how the choke chain works. I talk to them, double lead them. So there
Mhm.
is a harness and a pinch collar or choke chain.
Mhm.
I come up with the solution. So the fact is, if you don't have all the knowledge you need
Mhm.
from the behavioral part of it, from different training method,
Mhm.
then you're not going to be successful.
Right.
You are at least be strong enough. If you don't have the knowledge, recommend to see another professional,
Right.
because if you don't, you kill that dog
Yeah. And this
for
is
$100.
this is something we talk about all the time on the podcast, Bobby. So I'm glad you brought it up, because those of you guys who are, who consider yourselves a balanced dog trainer, this fight has been happening since the late 80s, early 90s. Like this fight and the discussion, and there's a handful of people who've been doing it long enough where they understand this philosophy, and these were the stepping stones that later would become balanced dog training as a concept, in the modern day, right? These ideas, as Bobby's talking about, being able to have different approaches to help different types of dogs, being able to be multidisciplined or all these things that we are priding ourselves on now. These are the people who laid down the mindset for this type of stuff. So it's very cool.
Well, when I was working in Shitson, it was a very popular T-shirt everybody was wearing, and it says on it, the only thing trainers they have in common
Mhm.
is how wrong the other one is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
That's
so
still true
you
today.
seriously,
Yep.
so you have a trainer work with the killer method, then you
Uh-huh.
have another one which you work with treats, or they call it positive
Reinforcement.
reinforcement, or how they want to look at it, and they both are important.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the key is, can you handle, educate yourself to do A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z, because you are going to need it with the same dog on a certain situation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the method is going to be way more effective than the others.
Right.
Here's a
Okay.
struggle that I've had personally lately with a lot of rescue people that I work with. And I think that you're right when you say they mean well. Obviously, these people are volunteering their own time and their own resources and things like that. But a lot of times it's like I have to explain to them as a trainer why a dog might be better with a prong collar or like an e-collar or whatever the case. And they let their like bleeding heart get in the way of what would be good for the dog because they feel bad, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Well, also as a rescuers, because I've been a rescuer more than I've been, as long as I've been a trainer, I would say,
Mhm.
maybe longer based of my young age. Um, also remember one thing: supporters. You have a lot of supporters, sponsors, which they give money.
Mhm.
Those are the people you don't see in front. Okay, those are the one that write the check, and some of them they write a good amount of a check.
Mhm.
And these people, if they see the rescuer using a choke chain or pinch collar, they will stop paying them.
Mm.
and you don't have any access to that individual. I remember it was, there is no name, there was a donor which he gives good amount of money, very, very rich, very passionate individual, but he will not give money to the organization if the people running the organization, they were not vegan.
Hmm.
Okay. But being vegan doesn't mean you're a better rescuer.
Right, right. Has nothing to do
Okay.
with it.
But they look at it, animals getting killed for you to be fed. So if you have that mentality, you shouldn't be a rescuer. Okay, so there are so many different parts come to it because we really cannot change everybody, and everybody got mind of their own, and
Right.
everybody got their own way of thinking. So a lot of times rescue organization is their passion. They worry what they heard because and I saw that myself, because a trainer was very, very aggressive with the choke chain.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
had to stop a trainer in a dog park, and that person didn't like me
Right.
Mhm,
because
mhm.
he's actually hanging a 4 months old puppy chow on the air with a choke chain.
Yep.
Okay. So those are developed such a huge impact on people's mind about choke chain, about pinch collar. And so you have to understand them as a rescue, which they're very passionate. But
Mhm.
also, again, part of education is the most important part of a trainer.
Right.
I think that that right there is probably the single biggest reason that Brent and I decided to start this podcast. It's been what, like 8 months now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I re you know, because me and Brent, I moved, it's almost been 2 years, but we never lost touch. So we would talk all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry
one
for
day yeah.
No,
And no,
God.
no, I mean, no, honestly,
yeah,
like,
I hear you.
but Brent and well, I'm sure you know, Bob, because, you were there when me and Brent first met, so, I mean, Brent has become like a big brother to me, so it's hard to even put
And
into
Bobby's
words.
like a big brother to me. So
Oh,
it's
I
Yeah,
like
thought
a
you
little,
were a big brother. I
little
thought you were a
family.
big brother.
I'm your big brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but my point is we started this podcast, for like a few reasons, but the biggest one was just why do so many damn dog trainers in today's world with YouTube and everything else, why do you still not know? And why are you still doing things wrong? And why and sometimes the consequence is huge because like you said, even these years, I meet dogs all the time that were quote unquote untrainable,
Yeah.
and like and these people were like, "I worked with this, person, that person," and I'm like, "Who the hell are these dog trainers that are letting these dogs slip through the cracks that shouldn't be?" And so we
Yeah.
felt like it's important to make sure that we do what we can to help people understand it's your job, it's your obligation as a professional to learn everything about it that you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm,
100%.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. But I got to tell you, uh, I had experience. A client hired me because nobody could train his dog.
Mhm.
So we did a one on one. And in 6 weeks, the dog was absolutely perfect. On a graduation, he comes to me, he hand me a business card. He goes, I learn a lot. I'm a dog trainer. If you need help, you can hire me. Hand me his business card. In six
Oh,
sessions, he thought he's a dog trainer.
so wait, you taught him to train his own dog.
Exactly. He
Oh, I
trained
see. I
one
see.
dog himself
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
with my supervision of once a week meeting. Okay. But he thought he can train any dog.
Mm,
So those are not dog trainers.
Right.
right.
Those are the business people want to take advantage of business to
Right.
make extra buck.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
Yeah.
have
Unfortunately, the problem is the animals will pay the price.
right, right, right,
They
right.
actually will kill an animal.
Yeah.
Well, and we have that today. I mean, I, I remember back in the day, um, that like most of us weren't big fans of e-collars and I don't know if you are today or not, and that, it doesn't, but I myself who got really good at e-collar some 4 or 5 years ago, and I see now the value in it, and just like you said with any other tool, how you're supposed to work it appropriately and the transformative, like, miracle that it can have for some dogs sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not gonna like name names, but there are companies near me now, who all of their training program is built around marketing. It's a 2-week board and train with no delineation. Puppy, whatever the age, whatever the breed, whatever the issue, 2-week in and out, we guarantee your dog is off leash ready. That's
Mm.
bullshit if I've ever heard it ever, you
Yeah.
know? And,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's just stupid. And the thing is, Bobby, when I first moved here, this is a new state. I had no clients here. So I started working at a kennel while I built my client base. And while I'm working at this kennel, I'm interviewing at other places just to see how I can improve my situation. And so I interviewed with these people. So I met the owner, and he was vetting me like, have you trained with this, and this? We do mostly e-collar. I was like, oh, well, I know everything about e-collar. I'm really good at it. I know how to work with the food and transition them to the leash and transition to the collar. And they were like, yeah, but we do like only e-collar.
Yeah. That's why they do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And he was, oh, because this is this. And I was like, okay, what if I could train a dog in 2 weeks with food and an e-collar? No, we only do e-collar. And I was like, but why though? And I was like, what if I can
My dog
show
was better
you?
than your dog.
Yeah, well, I was like, what if I can show you, like literally show you based on experimentation.
Mhm.
These aren't my analytics. These are analytics that exist out in the world. What if I can prove to you the dogs will be sharper if there's food involved? If in fact, if it's majority food with corrections only when necessary.
Yeah, yeah.
No, well, we just, we this and this and this. And I was like, okay, see you later.
No, we had that in Los Angeles, one of the oldest kennel in Los Angeles. That's all they did. 2 weeks e-collar. So they sell you a 2 weeks. They sell you an e-collar. See, I work at e-collar to start it with the Schützen work.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, so I had to because I'm sending the dog without the leash in the park to go after the agitator.
Right.
Right.
And I need to control that dog. So I'm very familiar with it. But the fact is, if you're not educated on it, you could actually cause problems. So that's
Yeah.
what some of the people they worry about.
Yeah.
Plus, like you're dealing with a Petco. Petco doesn't even want you to use choke chain because
Right.
you're dealing with a corporate policy of a liability.
Right.
But is it a liability or saving an animal's life
Right.
or staying at home? So
Yeah.
you have to look at it a little bit differently because anything. I mean, I look at this pen. This pen can write me a check for $2 million, or it can poke my eyes out. Is the pen bad or good?
Correct. Right. It's just a tool.
Okay. So it's just a tool. So a choke chain, yes, if you're not educated, you could have harmed the dog.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same as a e-collar. I think
Yeah.
e-collar is less harmful than a choke chain.
And
I agree.
something just came up in my mind real quick that I think I just want to say it. So I know plenty of dog trainers that figured it out. They were introduced to a tool. They just kind of took it and rolled with a pinch collar, choke chain, e-collar, whatever it might be. And one thing that I just realized again is another reason why mentorship is really, really important, right? Even if you think of outside of the discipline of dog training, you think martial arts, whatever it is, when you have a mentor, when you have someone, or even in a Schützen club, right? Something you
Mhm.
learn in a Schützen club, you see other people who are better than you practicing.
Mhm.
So therefore your technique gets tighter. You get
Better.
more subtle. You don't have to use as much pressure. You don't have to use as much force or energy to accomplish the things that you want to do. And I think tools definitely can help make a difference as far as when it comes to control. But I think what we really need to focus on as dog trainers is if you know that you're pretty decent with a tool, I would still always seek out someone better than me in that tool so that I can fine tune those skills so that I can gradually get better and better and better and better as a technician of that tool.
100% because steel sharpens steel, right? So
Yeah.
like it's funny how we talked about this. I think it was last episode. That was the reason.
Come on.
Why increases?
I don't know.
Can you guys hear me?
Start again. Yeah, it
Sorry.
froze.
So
Last episode.
sure. So I think we just talked about this last episode that the reason why something like a martial art, it's not easy, but it's not super difficult. You just have to go through the motions and learn with experience because head knowledge is one thing. Like someone can explain to me how to do XYZ, but then getting in there and actually doing
The
it in real
technical
time.
skill. The
Right.
technical Michael Ellis said the technical skill is so important.
Correct. Right, based on real world experience because every dog is different, every owner is different, every situation. That's why the different tool sets even exist in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Because nobody came out one day and was like, I really want to murder dogs. Let's make an e-collar a thing. It's got a function. It does a good job. but it just doesn't fit every single dog all the time. And that was my big gripe, because mind you, I like e-collars, but that was my big annoyance with this person that I'm thinking of that only strictly does it. And I'm like, what a foolish thing, you know.
Yeah.
But my point being, kind of to your point, and then I do have to run you guys.
Yeah.
Is the thing about something like a martial art, or really most other things in the world, classrooms and everything else, you see the people that are better than you, but you also see the people that are worse than you. And both examples are extremely valuable, because when you only until you see it, you realize, like, oh yeah, that person's putting a ton of pressure on this dog, or I'm putting a ton of pressure on this dog, and I can see it now when it's in contrast with everybody else. This dog isn't actively disobeying me. I'm pressuring him so much, he's like stuck. So
Yeah.
maybe I should tone it down, not tone it up, because it's really easy for some people to want to do that kind of thing. But I think that trainers, what they should be making more of an effort to do. And again, that was kind of what one of our things was in starting this whole thing, was we should make it more of an effort to communicate together and kind of get together and just learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree, and I think I want to thank Bobby for creating an environment for me as a trainer, and he's trained many other trainers in Los Angeles, but just creating an environment at the company that he founded, of always having this open mind, of always, really pushing, not letting us be scared to explore different methodologies and ideas and bringing them to the table, and really giving us that environment to grow as trainers. Because whether you believe it or not, Bobby, at least in Los Angeles, in our local region, you've helped change the future of dog training in California. So uh, thank you so much for that. If I was going to ask you this question, Bobby, what is your message to young dog trainers who are up and coming? Think of me when I was 18, when you first met me, like
That was a disaster.
yeah, true. What would be some bullet points? It doesn't have to be one message, but what are things that you think are
Well,
really important for people to know?
one of the most important part of any business
Hmm.
is to stick to it.
Hmm.
Jumping from one branch to another branch, you
Hmm.
never will be successful.
Right.
Okay, you will go up and down a lot, but you never. So one of the things I would say is educate yourself, stick to it,
Hmm.
um, go with the time.
Hmm.
What's allowing you to happen? It was a time Doberman was popular. It was a time German Shepherd was popular.
Hmm. Adapt,
Right?
adapt. Yeah.
So you need to educate yourself 100% on that one. Most important part of a dog training are two things: to educate yourself and also do a right evaluation.
Hmm.
So it is very important for you to understand that puppy before you start working with them.
Hmm.
And through the process, every step you go forward, you need to reevaluate that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay? Because if you evaluate it in the wrong way, it's going to be a disaster on end.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? So the difference between a shy dog and an aggressive dog, they both going to react aggressively,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the training is so different.
Right.
Correct.
So if you notice the dog has aggression and you don't know if it's a dominancy or is a shyness, there is no way you can solve that problem,
Right.
because you could have
Effectively.
caused more problem than actually helping that animal.
Right.
All right. So those are the things is very important. My goal always been be the best you can be and do the most you can do. So
Yeah.
when I developed Canines Only, we were the one of the first five-star hotel. You remember we
Yep.
had indoor pool,
Yep.
we had massages, we had plasma TV.
Hmm.
Before that, all the kennels were chain link and a gravel.
And gravel. Yep.
Okay,
Versus, you
so
were the first state of the art facility in
exactly.
Los
So
Angeles.
that's what's important in the future, because now every dog hotel is fancy. So who's benefiting? All of our animals.
Exactly, because the amenities and the animal care
Exactly.
and the quality went
And
up.
the health and everything
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
Okay, so those are the things it's very very important to me.
Yeah, you've definitely pushed the needle in definitely locally in Los Angeles, Bobby, and it's great. I just want to list off a couple more of accomplishments, so like kind of in order. So, Bobby, you helped found the mobile pet adoptions for the city of Los Angeles. For those of you guys who didn't tune in earlier, that is when he was able to convince the city of Los Angeles to take shelter animals and take them to public places so that they could get adopted. And this still till this day, 25 years later,
Yes, still is active.
is still an active program in the city of Los Angeles. And I think because LA is such an influential city, this program has been adopted across the country,
Yes.
which is amazing. New Leash on Life, you rescued over 3,500 animals in 2005.
I was active till 2012.
And yeah, with that rescue organization, training service dogs and therapy dogs from animals adopted from the shelter. You were the founder of Canines Only, which was one of the premier dog training, 5-star dog training facilities and boarding facilities out here in Los Angeles, which you're no longer part of anymore. You were also a member, and you were a member of the board that was in charge of developing the spay and neuter ordinances for the city of Los Angeles. And you were also one of the co-founders of LA Love and Leashes, which is a part of a nonprofit called Friends of LA Animal Shelters, they were the first pet store that every morning would bring dogs from the city shelters to public locations like malls, storefronts, and pretty much it was imagine a beautiful pet store that only had shelter dogs in it. Okay, and every day he was able to came up with a contract with the city where every day the city would bring animals who are at nighttime living behind the bars of a shelter to have public exposure so that people, in Century City and Topanga Mall could see these animals in front of them.
They would be adapted.
Yeah, so they would be adoptable. I mean, this is, and you're one of those guys, Bobby. You're going to keep working until the day that you're gone. And I know animals are always going to be a huge part of your career and your future. And we just want to thank you so much for spending time with us and being
Thank
here.
you. It was a pleasure.
Those of you guys who found value or inspiration in this episode, please just really try your best to share this with one person. It's there's so much knowledge here that I've gained from this man for a while. Obviously I'm a little biased because I like the guy. But go ahead. Anything you want to say, Mario?
Well, I can say too. I mean, I think Bobby, this is the longest conversation that you and I have ever been able to have, and I can't tell you just how much I enjoyed it and how much I just want to thank you genuinely. And I think that it's just it's it's hard to put into words almost. Like it's one of those things where as we all get older and kind of fall into those different places,
Inspiring. It's inspiring.
it is inspiring, but it almost feels like one of those things to where it's the type of inspiring that I'm glad we had the chance to talk now as opposed to however many years ago, because I feel like I'm just in a better place to absorb this information now. And so I'm grateful that timing works out in its funny little ways. But yeah, thank you so much, Bobby. And I can't wait to have you back, by the way. And I really think this is not a joke. You should really look into like writing a book.
Yeah.
I've been told that.
You should. You really should.
Bobby, the funny thing is, so we're in LA, we're in Hollywood. Bobby he's been offered so many shows and so many National Geographic specials and so many things. I mean, why didn't you take any of these, Bobby?
My focus was to make the change.
Yeah.
And
from the inside.
I didn't want to be an actor.
Yeah.
I want to be an animal rescuer. I want to be an animal lover. Since I was a little kid, my dad always told me one thing, and I followed that through my heart till now. And he said, every day you do one good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I said, what do you mean every day you do one thing? And he goes, just a smile at someone, open the door for somebody's older, give your seat away. Anything you can do to somebody appreciate it, even if they don't say they appreciate it, you done your good deed.
Right.
So I followed that rule all my life.
Amazing.
They call that.
And I'm doing it through the rest of my life. And that's what I'm trying to get my kids to do. So my passion is helping and also be effective on a bigger picture. So that's what my passion is.
Awesome.
I've heard that before. They call that winning the day. And if you win every day, you win the year. And if you win every year, you win at life.
Yeah.
It's true.
So that's where I'm at.
True.
But it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully we talk soon.
Yep.
Yes.
Those of you guys who liked this episode, don't forget to leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening, Spotify, Google, iTunes, etc. we want to thank you so much again, Bobby Dorafshar, for joining us here on episode 36. This is Trainers to the Rescue with Bobby Dorafshar. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in episode 37. You guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Peace.
See you.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you back for the next one. But in the meantime, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dog Trainers Podcast. Go ahead and leave a comment. Ask us any questions that you want. We would love to connect with our dog trainer communities all around the world. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.